Hey guys, Matt with BleepinJeep here. Guess what we're working on today? Oh, the Comanche? Oh yeah, it's the Comanche, you guessed it. Good job. Okay, where did we leave off? I have no idea. Let's just jump into it here. This is what I've been working on today, is routing the fuel lines. So there is the fuel lines. Let's see, there is a, we'll start off where the fuel comes out of the tank. There's a shut-off valve right there. And then it goes into the fuel pump right there. Comes out of the fuel pump and goes into the fuel filter right there. And then there's another one that goes out of the fuel filter and back into the tank. And then there's another one that goes out of the fuel filter and goes under the vehicle. And I have that routed. Let's see if we can get you under here. See all those little clamps? That is the fuel line going up towards the engine. I was also working on routing the brakes. So I was going to take the brakes along with the fuel line, but then I realized it would be too short by the time I got up to the front because it has to go across the engine. So I went ahead and I'm going to take it here and actually go through the frame and then up and out of the frame up by the engine. So it comes out of the frame right here, and that'll give me just enough length to connect to the brake booster, their master cylinder, without having to buy additional line. And the fuel line is on the wrong side, but I have plenty to work with because it'll come around and attach right about here somewhere. What else have I been working on? Oh yeah, I got both seats mounted. So both seats are in, and I've got my bar back here for the seat belts. And I made a video, you guys have probably seen it, of me working on the brackets for the seats. So the seats are on sliders, both of them. That turned out really well. I bent this so that you could actually reach it, because the new seats, it was kind of hidden back there. And what else? That bar for the seat belts I made. It attaches through the cab to the roll cage. So there's that. All right. What are we working on today, you ask? I don't know. Let's find something. So there I was minding my own business, and I needed to see if this brake line would reach the brake booster. So I go to put this over here to see if it'll reach, and out of nowhere the Comanche just slaps me in the face. I mean, I come out here every day, I put all this time and love into massaging her, and she just slaps me in the face. I mean, what the heck? Happens every day. God. So if you'll notice, I made some nice modifications right here to clear the headers and such for the engine. I went ahead and plated it and welded it all back up. It's beautiful. And guess what? Doesn't fit. It's gonna have to get cut again. Again. I already did it. I'm gonna have to do it again. What the heck? So that got me searching my shelves and getting all of the brake boosters that I could find. So if you look, this is the brake booster that came off of the Comanche. This is the brake booster that came off of the CJ. And this is the brake booster that came off of my old crawler. And well, there's a lot of variables here. So it got me trying to figure out how I can Frankenstein all this together to work. So let me go over this real quick. This one works great. It worked great in the CJ, but it will not fit in the Comanche. This one is the stock one out of the Comanche, so we know it works, but obviously I don't want that master cylinder on there. And then this one out of the crawler, I assume it worked. It's been modified for working with the brake switch. But then if you also notice, the brake switch hole here in the bolt is much larger on the Comanche, so I'm going to need to drill that out if I use that. It's the same here. This one has been modified, it looks like, to be adjustable. So there's several things that you have to get right here. You have to get the length correct. So you want to take your stock length and measure that from here to here and get that exact if you're going to be doing the dual diaphragm upgrade. And we need to make sure that the master cylinder fits on whatever I use. Now, when I first went to go put the double diaphragm in there, I realized it doesn't fit either, just like this one. But I got to looking closer, and you see how this is bent down like this? Well, it doesn't fit like that. But if you look here, you'll notice that this one is upside down. The back of them are the same, but where this hose comes out is opposite. So I realized if you turn it over, and I went and shoved it back in that way, and it does fit. So that's really weird, even though these are opposite now. So either somebody installed this upside down, or they just made them different in an 86 MJ. Maybe someone much smarter than me can tell me which it was. But yeah, so it just barely clears like this. Now the next step is to see if this fits on that booster. If this master cylinder fits on this booster, I'll have the best of both worlds there. I won't have to buy any new lines or any adapters to get my brake lines to fit to that. But I'll also have a dual diaphragm. I will have to, however, make sure that this is the same length, and I'll have to drill out this hole to be the exact same as that, and make sure that the distance between the hole and this flat spot is exactly the same, so that my brake switch will work. That's what turns on your tail lights or your brake lights whenever you hit the brakes. Okay, well, that was not what I was hoping to find. Obviously, those are quite different. I was hoping to find something like this. This is the one that came off of the dual diaphragm and off of the CJ. So let's check the one on the MJ, see what it looks like. So that looks very similar. Yeah, must be a single diaphragm thing. So, what should I do? Should I put this on here, or should I try to keep this and fit the lines? Try to find some adapters to go from here to my brake lines that I've got now. Let me see if I can find those. Well, I've spent the last 30 minutes pulling every single adapter that I could find off of all of my brake parts that I have around the shop, and not a single one gets me there. So my only options now are to either go to town an hour away tomorrow and try to spend all day trying to find an adapter that gets me there, or to just slap this sucker on here and call it a day. I won't have to do any modifications because that's the stock booster. Then in the future, if I decide the braking is not enough, I can upgrade. So I think that's what I'm going to do for now. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. But the stock single diaphragm booster seemed to be working great on that CJ. So I don't see why this won't work just fine as well. Although I should probably do it upside down so it's like the other one. Should I? I don't know. Sounds good to me. Alright, so I made sure that this little guy was sticking out the right amount on this one. We don't need to measure the length from here to here because this is the stock booster. We don't need to open up this hole because this is the stock booster, and we don't need to grind this flat because this is the stock booster. Whereas if I was using this one, you can see I would have to do that. What else? This is from the CJ, so I don't need to adapt the lines because the lines are already there that I have for the brakes. So now it's just ready to slap in. Probably should paint it, although maybe it's cool to have that patina. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Oh, one more thing I wanted to mention. On some of these boosters, this one is out of what, 96 Cherokee, I think, or something like that. They come with these little spacers on here, and those are handy to have if you want to adjust the spacing between this rod without having to cut it and re-weld it or whatever. And also what that does is by changing that length, it adjusts your brake pedal. So if you want your brake pedal to be out further or in further, you can add or subtract spacers. Something's not right here. So it turns out you can't install this thing upside down. I'll show you why if I can get it out. So I turned that master cylinder upside down, thinking that I was going to install it like this, but I guess because of the angle that this is coming out at, the way this metal piece is angled right there, it wouldn't let it go in. So I'm going to have to flip this around. But yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about was some people don't understand whenever they leave comments that when you're fabricating something like this, things have to go in and out a lot of times. So I get comments, and it's valid questions. Like the other day I got a comment saying, why are you not using lock washers? Well, it was on a shock. The reason is because it's just being there. It's just there for fitment. And that shock is going to have to go on 20 times, maybe 30 times. The seats, especially the seats, had to come in and out, you know, probably 30 or 40 times before they finally get bolted in. But the reason for that is because you're checking for fitment. You put them in, you have to adjust, you have to, you know, tack weld it. And then it turns out that doesn't work right, so you have to take it off. You cut the tack welds and you re-tack weld it, and you go in and out, in and out, in and out multiple times before you finally get it right. Plus, for the seats, like I'm going to have to put the floor pans in still, and then I'm going to have to put the carpet in. And so, yeah, right now what I was doing is just making sure that they are perfect where I want them to be. And then, you know, once the carpet goes in, that's when the final installation will go in. And so if there's not things like lock washers on there, that is the reason why. And this, I wanted to make sure it fit, which is a good thing I did, but it has to come back out because the motor has to go in here, the steering has to go on before I can finally bolt this down. So this won't go on for a long time still, even though I was test fitting it today. That being said, at least I learned something today. I learned that at some point they flipped these upside down and changed the hole location of the vacuum. They must have changed the bracket at some point too so that it would fit in there, because as you saw, it didn't fit upside down. Why they did that, I don't know. So if you're paying attention, you might be wondering, why would this one not fit upside down when this one is manufactured upside down and it does fit? So I got to wondering myself, and I went and I put this one in, and it does fit in there. So what's the difference? Well, these are lined up for one thing, so you can see that this one, the older model style, it's actually coming up at an upward angle as it's mounted in there. And this one is coming at a downward angle as it's mounted in there. So you'd think if you just turn this upside down, you'd be golden, because then they'd both be at the same angle. But the difference is that this one is recessed in. They have this little recess in here, and so this one's only sticking out about a ½ inch, whereas this one is sticking out a little further, and it must be just enough to make a difference. Also, this one has the spacer on, so when you put that spacer on there, it's not even sticking out at all right there, whereas this one is quite a bit. So that's why it won't fit in upside down. Problem solved. Lesson learned.